has nothing to do with security. Or it's all about conditioning. It's all about getting people comfortable with seeing as you point out, the troops in the streets with the black masks and the paramilitary rifles and gear and what have you. Look, none of this is law enforcement. It's paramilitary, and that's we are supposed to be what my source is saying. They are doing this in incremental stages in order for us to be conditioned to see this across the country.
Well, that's the thing. You can see the rollout. You know it's a PR campaign. And for somebody who's watching and knows, it's ridiculous, and it's 100% being done in a wicked, evil fashion. I mean, this is a premeditated, total, soft martial law rollout.
Exactly. Now, I want to say one thing. You mentioned something about Trayvon Martin. According to my source, that Trayvon Martin case, there was a lot of exculpatory evidence that was omitted from the affidavits. The affidavit was written in a passive voice. There were a lot of problems. There's overcharging there. There's potential prosecutorial misconduct by Angela Corey, alleged with respect to suborning perjury and what have you, and this is done by the good graces and with the approval with the approval of Eric Holder. I mean, she's taken her marching orders directly from Eric Holder. So the outcome of whether it's an acquittal of Zimmerman in the Trayvon Martin case or there's something lesser. I mean, they overcharged Zimmerman, and they were told to do that. Basically, attempting to throw the verdict to assure the outrage when Zimmerman walks, and they expect him to walk. I'm not sure if I made that point clear or not.
And then they can control the trial so they can trigger that when they want as the pretext for the race riots. Exactly.
You got it right on the money. And that's what my source is telling me. And he said, look, don't underestimate the outcome either way of the Zimmerman situation. Now, it's my understanding, too, and I just got this yesterday, that the family of Zimmerman, there's some things going on in the background with this. I don't know if his family's been threatened. I mean, obviously, they've been threatened, but in terms of, no matter what happens, you just keep your mouth shut, to the family, that is. So there's something not right there. Okay, that's that. I'm just trying to think here. I lost my train of thought, but you get where we're going with this. I mean, it's a three-legged stool, and in the middle of this is this. And the other thing too, Alex, is everyone knows, and there's 535 congressmen and senators. They ceded power to 13 people. Why did they do that? Why are more people saying, hey, wait a minute, this is unconstitutional? We heard Judge Napolitano talk about this, but the very people who are affected by it aren't talking. What's going on with that? Well, according to my source, look, there are active threats everywhere. And my source told me this, remember the FBI files from the Clinton years? What do you think was in those? I mean, there was a lot of information, and just the files that we know about. There was more files taken by the Clintons. The Clintons, by the way, have never ceded power in Washington. They are still in power. To this day, they're still in power and still calling the shots. But they're part of the globalist oligarchy that are behind the puppet master. And Obama, and everyone knows Obama, by the way, is illegitimate. He is not constitutionally eligible. And people try to trivialize that. Well, they shouldn't, because it's not really about a piece of paper, about a birth certificate. It's about allegiance. Who is this guy?
Well, let me expand on that. We've got the super committee you're talking about, yes, with 12 members of Congress and the president. You've got the president saying, I've got the UN to launch war. You've got the Joint Chiefs of Staff telling Congress when they're questioned that, no, we take our orders from the UN now. Unbelievable treason with a capital T. I mean, it isn't even a strong enough word. It's so naked. We've got governor's councils running things. We've got rural councils. We're going to ban kids doing chores. I mean, they are moving on every front in an attempt to overwhelm people. What are your other sources saying? What else should we be looking at? I mean, why is Congress just handing everything over and letting the military come in and really act like Eddie Haskells and be very arrogant towards them?
Well, look, I do know that there are a lot of Congress people, according to my sources, who have got a lot of skeletons in the closet, and now they're pretty big skeletons too. Okay, and of course they know that if they go against the grain, as well of the so-called establishment party or their their higher ups, of course there's going to be trouble. But the fact of the matter is, the reason they're making the decisions that they have been making is because they've been flat out threatened. I mean, it's one thing to be threatened with, hey, you're not going to get reelected next time, but it's another thing to be threatened, hey, we know about your wife, we know about your children, we know this, we know that. And that's the field in which we are playing, according to the sources I've got. And one thing, too, that ties into what you were talking about that military directive, and you were named by name, according to my source, for bringing this out, but there are certain aspects of this, the Social Security aspect of this military directive. This directive is a nightmare, according to my source, a nightmare that this thing ever got out, written in 2010, and all of a sudden now, bam, it's out. A nightmare. And of course,
you're talking about the re-education camps for American document.
Yeah, FM 339-40 or 3-39.40. The document you were talking about earlier. It is meant for American citizens, obviously. Page 168 of this, again.
And is he saying they're pretty freaked out that that's out?
Yeah, and yes, absolutely. And look, it came out on your program, mentioned you by name, and how that came about was I had a conversation yesterday evening, and said I'm scheduled to be on with you today, and hey, well, guess what? I mean, this guy freaked a lot of people out here at the high levels of government.
Let me ask you a question: why do you think I'm still alive and they haven't killed me or set me up? I mean, they've tried a few times and threatened me, but why do you think I'm still alive? I mean, for the reason Jim Garrison said, that once you're public enough, they think it'll actually draw too much attention if they kill me or set me up?
Exactly. I believe you are still alive only because of the level of your exposure, and truly, that's what I believe. I mean, I think if you suddenly died, if you got Breitbarted tomorrow, there would be such an outcry from the people who follow you, who understand what you're all about, that they don't want to drag more attention to themselves at all. And I think, you know what else? I think there's an element of spirituality here too. Look, we're fighting pure evil here, pure evil. So I do think that God is on your side as well. But that's just my opinion.
Oh, I know that, and that's why I don't have any fear. But it's also, again, 50 years ago, people from inside government came out and said all this was coming, and they got killed, they got in prison, because the system wanted to contain it. The info's out now, and they just want to assassinate my character for my idiosyncrasies and things. And so they want to try to do that. If they kill me, it will martyr me. But why did they do Breitbart then? Well, our intel was that they didn't release what was really going to be released, obviously from threats and things. He was saying it's Weather Underman, it's meetings with communists. It's basically the re-education camp info is what I'm being told in similar areas. But he had witnesses. He'd had dinner with the head of the Weathermen a month before he died. And so that's when they kill you. If you've got film of Obama, in bed with a goat or whatever, I'm not saying I really have that, folks, that's a joke, that's when they send a hit team to kill you. But if you're just somebody up there generally talking about the info, they just try to assassinate your name.
And that's been happening so much lately to a lot of people, a lot of great people. I've been marginalized by, and you're correct. I mean, under Cass Sunstein and others, there are people who do nothing, and this is verified by my source. They are paid to sit at computers all day long and use screen name, anonymous names, and go in and cause trouble, foment insurrection in forums and political forums on both sides of the aisle, and just disrupt everything, hijack what they call hijacking threads. This is what they do, and especially attacking the character, maligning the character of people like yourself. I mean, it's incredible that we've actually have in this government disinformation agents that are actually being paid to sit at home, in their jammies on the internet, doing this.
And by the way, as you mentioned, that's declassified. That's in the news, and they've even got sophisticated megaphone robots, is what they call them, programs that go out and pose as people. We'll be right back with our guest. Hope you can stay a little bit in the next hour. Can you do that, Doug?
Sure, thank you.
Okay, fantastic, because I want to get to all these callers. We're coming to your calls next, and more of what his sources told him. I'm going to try to shut up and let him go through the rest of that list he's going over. For a long time, you've heard me talk about building your own food supply with Okay, we're going to go to your phone calls here in a moment. Doug Hagmann, director of the Northeast Intelligence Network, is our guest. Has a lot of amazing sources out there. You can find out more on his website. And in fact, give us your website one more time, and then I want to ask you any other tidbits that particular source gave you, other points you'd like to make before we start going to some of these phone calls.
Sure. Our website is HomelandSecurityUS.com. That's HomelandSecurityUS.com, not affiliated with any government agency, completely independent. And in terms of other information about from my source, of course, he's hoping that none of this stuff happens, flat out saying, look, I got a family. I hope none of this happens. I hope I'm wrong, but I want to tell you that that it looks like everything right now is pointing toward this taking place this summer leading up to the elections. And he said, if for some reason we're able to get through this summer without any trouble whatsoever, and if we have elections, and this is not a guy subject to hyperbole, by using that kind of language, but if we have elections, he said, watch very carefully between the time of election day and inauguration day. Watch that time period. Watch for false flag operations. The White House being shot at, that was a false flag operation. That was a trial balloon. He said, and this source, again, this is amazing to me. I had to double check this, and he confirmed it again. He says, look, there's something in the works. I'm not sure what it is. This is him talking, not me. He said, I'm not sure what it is. There's something in the works that there is going to be a false flag against either the first family, the first lady, or the president himself. And this is going to facilitate that and foment that racial divide, and also garner sympathy for the president. And I find that very hard to believe. Of course, he said this. He said, obviously there are no plans for anyone to be hurt, but it's certainly going to appear to be.
Remember a decade ago, whenever the Taiwanese president was about to be thrown out, so he staged a shooting of himself, and then it came out. I mean, it's so obvious they want to make themselves heroes.
Yeah, it's crazy. And look, Alex, I got a book, and I got to tell you this. I'm into old books. This book is a 1970 edition, Communism and the New Left. I picked this up on the Enronics in an old bookstore. This is their playbook. This is their playbook. This is what they're attempting to do. Everything that we're seeing happen today was done in the 60s. And it's the same people, except now they're in leadership positions as opposed to being in the protesting positions. It's incredible.
Well, that's why we play that, those clips talking about the weathermen wanting to kill 25 million Americans in the camps. So I guess they want to put like 50 million in there. And these people are running our government now, and they want to kill people. These are dirty, murdering scum. I mean, they're just filth.
And if they don't kill you, then they're going to have you building the bridges, filling in the potholes in the roads, and working for them. I mean,
look at the mayor of Chicago. He said on C-SPAN when he was White House chief of staff, he said we're going to make everybody serve people in high school in this new FEMA Corps thing. Oh
yeah, indeed.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and just a couple more things here. He said whether or not regardless of how the Supreme Court rules, expect that Obamacare is going to be. Well, I'm not sure of his exact wording here. It's going to go through. I mean, they're going to do Obamacare in one way, shape, or form.
Well, he's already started saying he doesn't care what the Supreme Court says.
Right. Now, he did say this, according to what he heard, that one or two of the Supreme Court justices should be a little bit worried, depending on how that decision goes. And that sounds pretty, Orwellian. But hey, I'm just telling you what I was told. And one last thing, I'm a contributing editor for CanadaFreePress.com. Judy McLeod, the founding editor, has some amazing contacts. She said, look, this is the first time she's ever heard.
Stay there. We got to come back in the third hour. Phone calls.
Alex Jones.
Doug Hagmann is our guest. He is the founder and director of the Northeast Intelligence Network. Has a lot of contacts in the FBI, CIA, intelligence.